Alright, so we are recording for the February 2026's cover impressions. So let's turn that on and have a look. So starting, I think this is just the order I do them in, is Barnes & Noble, Kobo, and then Amazon. Alright, so let's see. I have already seen these first three covers. That one I'm not familiar with. Just quickly looking, it looks kind of a almost Wild West fantasy, because it definitely looks like magic between the symbol in the back and the staff, and just Wild West because of the jacket, the coat, and the hat. So we'll open that up, get a better look at it. Okay, I got no idea on that. Really? Wuthering Heights is something everybody's talking about? I'm not really seeing too much here. I'm wondering if I'm reaching the point that things are just repeating, but yeah, I opened up the Brandon Sanderson book. Already seen that. Yeah, we'll look at that one too. Okay, so 119, because I do want to try to build out the list of these things now, so I don't need to do it later. Alright, so Jim Butcher, 12-month. Dresden Files. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I am, as a name, familiar with the Dresden Files, but I'm not otherwise familiar with it. But yeah, so that definitely does have magic. That isn't Western, but it does make sense for why he's dressed like that. Okay. Oh yeah, I do see that down here now. Novel of the Dresden Files. I'll be honest, I don't know enough about the Dresden Files to really have much of an opinion one way or another. I know some people do really, really like them, and it's definitely, it's just because I got some comics in a humble bundle years ago, and I did read it years ago. And it seemed a little silly, like that they may have been more modern comics, I guess one way to put that. So I'm not sure what opinion I should have on that. I did see some episodes because they did make a television series. Was that Sci-Fi Channel or was it something else? I don't remember, but I did see some of that. But yeah. So let's just have a look and see what's here. When lights go out in Chicago, anything can happen. With danger in every turn, Harry, Dresden, must do what it takes to save the city from ruin. But will his wizardly magic be strong enough this time? I appreciate that the blurb starts with something actually telling us about the story, giving us a setting, and it's not knowing anything about Dresden Files specifically. It's very generic. That's just, oh, they lost power. Okay, and so what's the threat from that specifically? But I do get it's the shortest blurb there. Chicago's only professional wizard always managed to save the day. It's been through a lot, and so has his city. Jade and his allies narrowly managed to save Chicago from being razed to the ground. Everything is different, and it's not just the current lack of electricity. Is there a reason? Okay. I know. Keep reading, but it's just 12 months lack of electricity. Are we to believe that it's in a power outage for 12 months? In the battle, Harry lost people he cared about, and that's the kind of loss that can take a toll. Harry being Harry, he's doing his level best to help the city and his friends recover and rebuild, but it's a heavy load and he needs time. But time is one thing Harry doesn't have. Ghouls are prowling at Chicago and taking out innocent civilians. Technically, that doesn't make sense for ghouls, but I'll get to that in a little bit. Harry's brother's dying, Harry doesn't know how to help him, and last but certainly not least, the Winter Queen of the Fae has allied with the White Court of Vampires, and Harry's been betrothed to the seductive, deadly vampire Lara Reith to seal the deal. What? I get that this is book 18, but I still feel like it could be clearer as far as this is Queen of the Fae and the White Court of Vampires. Vampires, I would assume, are bad people here. And it's just Harry's been betrothed to this vampire, and it's like, they can just do that? Does he even saying that? Anyway. Been a tough year. More than ever, the city needs Harry, Dresden, the wizard. But after loss and grief, if there's is there enough left of Harry Dresden, the man, to rise to the challenge? I'm not feeling. Okay, I'm feeling the weakest of connections here. But I'll be honest, that blurb, it doesn't really connect with me. In part because it's like what I was just saying, that some of I don't know who these characters are, so or these groups are. So if I were familiar with the earlier stories, though, this may connect with me more because, like, oh, I understand the significance here. As it is there, I don't quite get it. And that's a little disappointing. But it is also, it's number 18 in the series, so I shouldn't. This book is not being marketed to me, I guess is a way to put it, which. And this is a marketing statement. This is all marketing. But it is. You have to be careful with stuff like that. And this isn't a direct criticism of this, but just you do need to be careful with that, in my opinion, to try to make sure that it's the newest work that will get the most attention. At least that makes sense. But if you don't market it so that somebody can just step in at that point, or if you don't write it so that somebody can pick that up, you risk losing a new customer. Because if it's okay, you're just throwing terminology at me that I don't understand, potentially because it's book 18 instead of book 1, it's like, you still need to introduce things. You don't need to go into as much detail. It doesn't need to be as expansive. There is that, but you still need introduction, and I just feel like the blurb in here is not quite that. Also, do want to quickly mention Ghoul. And this could just be how the Dresden Files does it. Ghouls specifically feed on the dead. So somebody that is ghoulish is somebody that feeds on the dead or on death. So the idea of ghouls prowling Chicago and taking out innocent civilians, that's actually not what a ghoul would do. So it's one of those things that I do get that, excuse me. Sorry, I felt that coming. It's one of those things that I get in normal fiction, you might say, using the term ghoul incorrectly. I do understand that, and this I would consider incorrect, unless I am completely mistaken on. I'll try looking up on the definition of a ghoul. But no, as I recall, it is specifically, an evil spirit or demon in Muslim folklore believed to plunder graves and feed on corpses. A grave robber, one who delights in the revolting, morbid, or loathsome. So it is dealing with death. This is an incorrect use based on what's written there, which means then, and it is because this is already dealing with the macabre, it should get that right. So that actually does annoy me a little bit. Actually, no, it annoys me a little bit more than a little bit. Because that's one of those things that I can suspend my disbelief with if you're writing a story that doesn't have fantasy elements, well, that kind of fantasy element to it, and you're just using the term ghoul because it sounds right, that's one thing. No, I expect you to have it right. Like how there's technically, and this I don't know. Actually, no, I take that back. I think I did hear at one point that there are differences between sorcerers, wizards, and magicians, and I think one of them is the need to actually use incantations or use artifacts? I'm saying there actually are distinctions between them, and I think one might also be the amount of training that they have. Anyway, but when that technically is, there is a specific definition to these terms in something like this, I would expect those to be present as well. So, but it could also just be it's a badly written blurb. That should also be fair with that. So, all right, let's look at this next one. Pop that, and it is 9:45 in the recording. Mistborn, The Final Empire, series, number 1 in the series by Brandon Sanderson. And, alright. Let's just take a closer look at this. Pop that, pop that. So we got Gothic architecture here. A red and gray, and some yellow in there, yeah, for the lights. Color palette. And this curious being that has a torn cloak, 2 daggers floating over, and I'm just... Okay, no, it does... That might be a woman. It's hard... You can see. That might be a breast there, I'm not sure. It is short pants, though, because that's what this is. That's actually the cuff of the pants. I don't really know what this is, other than there's like a volcano in the background there. An erupting one, in fact. And you know what? So it also seems like there's a wall around the outside. So this is not only like a Gothic city, but it's like walled off from the rest of the world. And if you look back there, it's just red like it's a desert or something. Like that. This is very much a secured location, even against the elements, and that it stands out against the elements. Yeah, so I don't really... All I really got is that there's likely some sort of fantasy element here just because of how this figure definitely does appear to be flying. It is an unusual setting for like how there's that wall there and seemingly separating from the rest of the world. Yeah, one thing that I'm trying to figure out, Brandon looks like the font size is slightly smaller than Sanderson. Sanderson and Mistborn might be the same size. It's hard to tell, and I don't feel like pulling the image out and test and like actually measuring the pixels. But I just mentioned that because I've still got that rule that I don't like author names being featured more heavily than title names, because as I've said it before, say it again, I buy books, I don't buy authors. It's like I read books, I don't read authors. So give me the book title. And that is a me thing, because I do know there are people that, oh no, it's Brandon Sanderson. What's the latest thing from him? I'll buy that. I like that. I get that. But it still is I wouldn't do that. Well, I'd need that trust, basically. I'd need to know that, oh, this is something that from somebody that I do really, really like and I trust will write a good story. But I'm just trying to think, what is the last book series that I actually read where it was the same author? I mean, the closest would be, yeah, in the Star Trek novelizations, because the trilogy was Fonda McIntyre, and that Star Trek 4's novelization I did not think was good at all. It had several things about it that were quite poor. And then there was also with Star Trek, the 5 and 6 novelizations, those were both written by J.M. Dillard, and neither of those were very good either. But so it is like, Vonda McIntyre is the only one, but it's like, even just within that same book, because the trilogy's together in one book, it kind of fell apart, such that I'm not necessarily going to seek out Fonda McIntyre works other places. I mean, it might still be interesting to do so at some point, but why would I do that when I can just move on to reading another book that isn't necessarily her? Because as I said, I read books, not authors. I buy books, not authors. Anyway, let's actually see what we got here. Okay, so we're starting off with just publicity here. Over 10 million copies sold, the Mistborn series has the thrills of a heist story, the twistiness of political intrigue, and the epic scale of a landmark fantasy saga. I'm sorry, it's just political intrigue doesn't necessarily demand significant twists. Well, no, it does. You do need twists there, but significant twistiness. So, yeah, I mean, it's like, because I'm just thinking, I got down here, the movie, the classic, Manchurian Candidate, which is definitely political intrigue, but there aren't really it's not that twisty of a film. I don't know the story. I haven't read the story. But I don't know the book. I haven't read that. I was like, there are twists in there, but it's not like, oh, it twists and then twists again, then twists again, twists again, twists again. It doesn't do that. It's just, once you figure out what the twist is, then you're seeing more how things are just playing out, and in some cases in very negative ways. So it's just, it doesn't quite work the same way. It's not, because the twistiness of political intrigue and the fact that it's the twistiness, it makes it seem like it's twist to twist to twist to twist. That's a continuous thing. As opposed to, here's a twist, and then things are just continuing, and then there's another twist, but it's not really a twist, it's more like just how the original one is being applied. So, spoiler for Manchurian Candidate. After it's figured out who is the assassin, and that it's because he's been brainwashed, so he's been programmed, he ends up being activated to kill his own wife. And yeah, it's actually, well, no. He's activated to kill his father-in-law, who's a political enemy to those in control of him, but his wife witnesses this, and so he has to kill her as well. That's not exactly a twist, but it is a twist in that, oh no, he's had to be forced to do this as well. So there's that, but it's not a twist. It's just all off the same original twist. So anyway, let me get back to this. Once, a hero rose to save the world. He failed. Okay. Ever since, the world has been a wasteland of ash and mist. Okay, so that ash instead of sand. That makes sense. Controlled by the immortal emperor known as the Lord Ruler. But hope survives. A new uprising is forming, one built around the ultimate caper. Cunning of a brilliant criminal mastermind and the determination of an unlikely heroine is a woman. A street urchin would explain also the clothes. Well, at least the pants being so short, as though they're not properly fitted to her. A street urchin who must learn to master the power of a Mistborn. Okay. I don't like that blurb. I don't. Because it's like, okay, fine, the world wasn't saved when it needed to be. Fine. But we have an immortal emperor. Okay, hope survives. Okay, cool. So there's some way to stop the immortal emperor, and you don't tell us anything about what that would be. An uprising is forming. Okay, one built around the ultimate caper. It's like, what? What could you possibly steal that would make a difference here? The dude's immortal. I mean, true. Different kinds of immortality could just be a will never die of natural causes. But it could also be a no. Even if you cut his head off, that isn't going to work. He's still around. Because that, you really can't stop that. I mean, at least not easily, because there's always going to be somebody wanting to follow that. Because immortality is kind of one of those, you're immortal? That makes you a god. There's always that kind of person there. So, just stealing something, unless it is the key to their immortality, so they cease to be immortal, it doesn't work. So, I'm sorry, but this doesn't intrigue me at all, because why? What hope is here? You're not telling me anything that makes me think that the hope exists at all. You're stating it exists, but why? I mean, is it the immortal emperor will be killed, so the immortality defeated, or it will just be, oh, well, the uprising will succeed and just reject you as the ruler or something. And it's like, that is kind of relevant here, and it just, yeah, it doesn't mean anything to me. And it's also, we can also add in there, who must learn to master the power of a Mistborn. What is a Mistborn? What possible power could there be there? And this, is number one, so it's not like with Dresden, where, okay, there are prior things that could explain this. No, this is it. So, what about the mist can possibly support a new power that's for anyone to master? So it's a question of why is it this street urchin, not somebody else, who, by the way, is also unnamed. I'm saying you could give a name, but it's like, it is not not at all impressive. The books you have always meant to read. Uh-huh. I'm book one of the... Are there multiple? Oh, yeah, there are multiple. Okay. It's just odd that it's from 2023, but it was being pushed there. But yeah, it's... This is not a good blurb. The cover... Okay, if I were to see that cover, like, in a bookstore, it's possible I would look at it, no guarantee. But it would be, I'd start reading. If what I read was that blurb, I'd be like, nah, not really. Put it back on the shelf. But it's like, if I opened it up and started looking at, like, page 1 and start reading a little bit, maybe that would work. Maybe that's what would connect with me. This, on its own, though, no, not really. Sorry, it really does fail to connect, and it's... Why should I care? What is... Which one was... I'm not going to be able to find it by looking at the title. It's like that one book in the first or second of these videos that had the husband go missing. And it's like, as I continued reading the blurb, though, it just completely fell apart. It's like, oh no, he ran away, and we find out, and the story is in part going to be 20 years later when he just happens to run into his wife again and figure it's like... But the first half of the blurb was talking about how hard it was for her to have to try to find him and no one really believing her. But it was also the whole, as I mentioned with that, he's missing. Okay, that's enough. Let's find him. But then it was like, he would never leave her. It's like, okay, that's fine. He's missing. I'm kind of curious now to see what's going on. And he'd never leave the show. Okay, look, I really don't need this extra reasons. I was already interested. And then I kept reading. It's like, oh, no, he ran away. He's not actually missing. Yeah, and it just fell apart. And I feel kind of like that here. Not that I was necessarily, like I'm invested. I'm just saying this is also failing to invest me. It's failing to connect with me. Because it's like, I don't know why there'd be power with the Mistborn. I don't know how a caper could possibly defeat an immortal emperor. I mean, just... Nah, no. Alright, 2236. Is it really going on that long? For Project Hail Mary, which I will absolutely grant that part of the reason why I'm looking at this is I'm aware that there's a movie coming out for it, but I do not know anything about it, about any of the, about that or what's in this. So let's look at this. Yeah, soon to be major motion picture starring Ryan Gosling. Whatever, don't really care. Okay, so this clearly looks like an astronaut on a tether, but is falling. With how the arms are out like that. Okay, so this could be a star, or it could just be to highlight that, hey, it's coming to a movie theater near you. But it's also, I'm just trying to figure out, because you've got the line there that could almost be like an event horizon, or at least some sort of terminator between light and darkness. And this side, it's golden, which, okay, that works for light, but it's how it looks like ink or paint with the black there. That's like, okay, I don't really know what's going on. How does that fit in? I'm gonna have to read the blurb to find out, probably. An epic story of redemption, discovery, and cool speculative science fiction. I'm just trying to... How old is the term speculative fiction? I'm going to ask. I mean, this is one thing with the whole, I don't have a background in literature. I just read and I write. My background's in the sciences. So I was never taught what all the genres are, but even then, some of it, I know I disagree. Like, it pisses me off that some people put fantasy under science fiction. It's like, no, to me, fantasy is here and science fiction is here. At least it's when it comes to that kind of specific genre. Like Dresden, the Dresden Files, that's fantasy here, and here's science fiction, that they're equal. They're at the same tier. I would also consider a larger fantasy super genre that covers them all, where it's just you're dealing with a fantastical world or fantastical elements, where these are clearly things that do not exist in our world, do not exist in reality. Yeah, and it's like, so in that way, it is fantasy. But then there's science fiction that, yes, that can be fantastic, but also fantasy, like magic and dragons kind of things, and actual ghouls. It's like, that's different than science fiction. But, some people want to put it underneath. I'm just like, no, the rules are different between those. So, but speculative fiction, I think, is something else. Maybe that, no, maybe that is what that larger fantasy genre is, where it's like you're supposed to speculate. It's like, oh, well, what would happen if this were the case? It's like, oh, okay, I can see that, but I don't know, there's some ways that I feel like science fiction wouldn't always fall under that because you do have, with science fiction, it doesn't always have to feel that speculative, where it's like, yes, what if you could travel faster than the speed of light? Okay, that's fine for one kind of speculation, but there comes a point where you can build out so many rules, so much physics after that single speculation that I feel like, no, it's no longer speculative fiction. It's just science fiction because you got a whole science here figuring all that out. So I don't know. Maybe it would help me if I knew how the stuff actually, what the formal terms were, but also at the same time, they're all bullshit. I'm sorry, but this is a certain reality that it isn't. The genres are convenient labels, but they're not determinant. They're not this is science fiction, so it must have this. It's like, no, you could have dragons in science fiction, and you can have, like how Star Wars is science fantasy. There's science fiction elements in it, but it's still truly a fantasy story. It's not a science fiction story. So the lines between them are always blurred. And end of the day, that isn't what really matters. What the genre isn't truly what matters, because genre can in some cases just be the setting, nothing more. But it will also grant that there are certain genres that might be different. So it's like I can see superhero fantasy. That I can see more a better defense for that being a genre than, say, just science fiction, because superhero fantasy tells you, oh yeah, there's superhero here, and you have certain expectations for that. Where science fiction, technically you can have science fiction that's Star Trek. You can have science fiction though that's, what if there were guns in the biblical era? It's like, that would also be science fiction. It's radically different than Star Trek, though. So it's just, or what if there were radio? Then that might be a better example. It's like electricity and the radio. It's like, that would also be science fiction. Those are radically different to forms of science fiction. But superhero fantasy, no matter what, you got a superhero. So somebody who has superpowers. So yeah. Anyway, let's actually get to reading the blurb here. Only hope for humanity rests with Dr. Ryland Grace. If only he could remember his mission. Andy Weir, the best-selling author of The Martian, delivers another perfect science-based thriller with Project Hail Mary, a tale of impending catastrophe, survival, and interstellar adventure. Okay. So the hope for humanity rests on one person, and they don't remember what their mission is. Oh, that's annoying. But it's also, why the hell is it one person? Seriously, there should be more than one person there. I would say, even 2001: A Space Odyssey, there's... Is it only the two guys that are awake, or was there a third? I don't remember. But there's also the crew members in stasis that Hal kills. But still you have multiple people there. So... it just seems odd for it to be one person. But yeah, let's just see. I don't care about the movie. Sorry. At least for what I'm doing here. A lone astronaut must save the Earth from disaster in this propulsive cinematic thriller full of suspense, humor, and fascinating science. I don't care. Okay. Ryland Grace finally getting to this side, because except for that first sentence, all of this is just the marketing, publicity kind of stuff. Okay, Ryland Grace is the sole survivor of a desperate last chance mission. If he fails, humanity and the Earth itself will perish. Okay, Earth should be capitalized. Let me just point that out. It is, because you're talking about the planet, this specific planet itself. It's capital. That's proper now. It's like how, and I make sure of this in my own writing when I can. The sun, when referring to our thing, our star, is capitalized. The moon, capitalized. The solar system, when referring to this one, capitalized. Yeah, so it's like that. Anyway, but it's a sole survivor on a desperate last chance mission. It's like, okay, sole survivor. See, now that gives me the answer that I was just bringing up. Why is he alone? Sole survivor. Okay, we're good. We're good. Except that right now he doesn't know that. He can't even remember his own name, let alone the nature of his assignment or how to complete it. All he knows is that he's been asleep for a very, very long time, and he's just been awakened to find himself millions of miles from home with nothing but 2 corpses for company. Okay, so there were 2 other people supposed to be with him, but neither of them woke up. I'm sorry, there's technically a little bit of a style issue that I have here. He has no memory. How does he know he's millions of miles away from home? I mean, it's kind of the whole... Who's the narrator here? Is it an omniscient narrator that is talking to the reader, telling us that, oh yeah, he's millions of miles away from home, Earth, or is it meant to be tied to his point of view, which is that he's just lost in space? His crewmate's dead, his memories fuzzily returning. Ryland realizes an impossible task now confronts him. Also want to mention, if he doesn't even remember his name, this would be, again, one of those style things. Maybe stop really stating his name all the time. Yeah, I mean, I'll finish reading the blurb, but just I would be more tempted myself to try to write the blurb as him awakening and not knowing where he is, who he is, any of that, and you just keep it going with, like, talking about how what he doesn't know, what he doesn't remember is this, and then you're giving the significance of the mission and all that, and just building, and then at the end, you give his name. Because it can also be, like, him discovering it himself, but also attached to that, Dr. Ryland Grace. Yeah. What is the doctorate in? Assuming it is a doctorate, not MD. But it's like, what is that in? And how, because that can also be a clue. Where it's like, it's this specific thing, like astrophysics with a specialization in black holes or in wormholes, something like that, where it's like, okay, because you're building up his confusion, the situation, and then how is he potentially the solution? It's because he has this specific skill. See, that's why I'd want to do it that way, and also build up to the name, so it also can. It's already investing you in the whole. He doesn't know who he is in the loss of memory. Okay, hurtling through space on his tiny ship, it's up to him to puzzle out an impossible scientific mystery and conquer an extinction-level threat to our species. I'm sorry, but there's that part of me that's like, okay, what is this impossible scientific mystery? I mean, it's like, what, can you give a name? Can you give a description? And also, like, what the extinction-level threat is. Right, and with the clock ticking down and this human being light years away, he's got to do it all alone. Or does he? An irresistible interstellar adventure as only he can provide. Okay. Yeah, no, I definitely would not end it on or does he, because, especially with that, because technically that's ambiguous. It could be, okay, I'm just not going to bother with it. It's like, let him die. I don't care. You could have that, or I don't remember. I'm just not going to figure it out. Or it could be suggesting that he isn't necessarily alone. Okay, that's fine. Not being alone, that we can work with that. But it still is. I don't like the construction of this blurb. I really don't. I feel it's not building. It's not providing enough information for me to be like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, this connects with me. It's just. It's generic. I'm sorry, but that is kind of how I feel. It does feel very generic. That's just insert possible hero, insert protagonist, who might prove to be hero, might not. Everything rides on him. He's so important, but he doesn't have his memory. And he's all alone. Or is he? That's incredibly generic. And that's all we're getting from the blurb here. The book may be 1,000 times better. I'd hope so. But this description is generic. Alright. Let's see what Kobo's got. And I feel like I've seen. Okay, no. So I will look at that. No, yeah, these three we can do. I feel like that's in a series that I'd seen something about before, Red, White, and Royal Blue. That I think Royal Blue was also part of it, and it was just, it's one of those, it's the same picture kind of books, and I don't care. So let's just see, 3605. What's this first one? Between Two Fires. Do you actually want to include the authors? I've been forgetting to copy those over. I can get it later. Okay, so we got, is that going to open up? I guess not. We don't have a preview, but it still is a little curious. Hang on. Let me just, will that be any better? Yes, that is a little bit better. Okay. Well, we've got the skull mask there, which could be, that could actually be intentional on the helmet to be intimidating. You would do that. Looks like a very long sword that would be unmanageable because it looks like that would be hitting the ground as you walk. That's on one side. It looks like you got a knife on the other. And this also looks to be a woman, because that is, I mean, there is wasp waist armor, but that still seems too high up for it to be a man. Although, well, the leg armor is also very thick here, which that, like, the proportion here on the legs doesn't match the arms. Now, that could just be that it is thicker, that it is more reinforced, but it's still, this looks far more like a woman's torso than a man. And now I'm also noticing here an epic tale of medieval horror, so it might be that's what's up with the skull there. Yeah, I don't really know. I really don't know what to expect of this. And partly it is because how that waist is. I mean, it looks like it's a woman. It's like, you wouldn't have a woman in armor like this. It would be very, very rare. And also the proportions between the legs and the arms is so odd as well. I don't know. I have to read the blurb. Enter a darker age with, boy. So it's just, I don't need the publicity stuff. Just a medieval horror adventure unlike any on the shelf. They always say that. The beloved book talk sensation I already want to stop reading. I'm sorry, I don't care about book talk. And Lucifer said, "Let's rise up against him now in all numbers and pull the walls of heaven down." Heaven should be capitalized. It was 1348. Thomas, a disgraced knight, has found a young girl alone in a dead Norman village. An orphan of the Black Death, an almost unnerving picture of innocence. She tells Thomas that plague is only part of a larger cataclysm, that the fallen angels under Lucifer are rising in a second war in heaven, that the world of men has fallen behind the lines of the conflict. Is it delirium or is it faith? She believes she has seen the angels of God, she believes the righteous dead speak to her in dreams, and now she has convinced the faithless Thomas, so it's a doubting Thomas, to shepherd her across a depraved landscape to Avignon. There she tells Thomas, oh, okay, so they make it. She will fulfill her mission to confront the evil that has devastated the earth and to restore to this betrayed, murderous knight the nobility and honor of salvation he long abandoned. It's hard to get over the murder, though. His hell, again, that should be in this context capitalized, unleashes its wrath, and as the true nature of the girl is revealed, Thomas will find himself on a macabre battleground of angels and demons, saints and the risen dead, and in the midst of a desperate struggle for nothing less than the soul of man. It's being sold with that DRM. Alright, well, that I appreciate. Yeah, it's a poorly written blurb, and it may sound odd for why. It gives too much, such that you either need to give me more or cut this down. Because, I mean, it's like, the whole, he has to shepherd her across the depraved landscape of Avignon, to Avignon. It's like, oh, okay, so that's what the quest is. That's what, the book's going to be about. It's about, trying to get her there, and, the challenges involved with that, because it's a depraved landscape. This is going to be hard, this is going to be difficult. Yeah, so what's next? So they make it. Alright, fine, well, I guess that's not what's going on. She tells Thomas she'll fulfill mission, blah, blah, blah. And like, I mean, you built up what I'm expecting the story to be about, and then it's like, nope. And it's just the whole, oh, yeah, what her actual purpose is, and all that. And it's like, where he's going to be. It's like, you could do that on the way, such that it still is crossing the depraved landscape. That is the story that's like gets you from page 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. But instead, it feels like I might be able to skip over like 10 chapters or whatever. It's like, okay, well, here, let me just get to when they arrive in Avignon, because I know they're going to make it. Do I need to know how they make it? I'm saying, yes, technically I do, but it still is. That's a bad blurb, because why bother reading it? I know they're going to make it. I'm just thinking about my books. It's really only, of the 3 I'd recommend, I'm not sure if I'd want to, one of them that I wouldn't, I'm not sure I'd count that one, but A Letter from Catherine, technically, well, no, I don't even remember the blurb I wrote for that. But it is just with Roman, I don't think I gave Wayne the blurb that he even lives. And there are plenty of chances in the body of the book, he might not. Like, there are definitely things that can kill him. Multiple during that, in fact. And, it does matter. It's like, okay, how does he solve the problem? So, I mean, yeah, I'll spoil that, yes, he does ultimately live and deliver the letter. That's the final chapter. But it still is, I'm not just telling you that up front. It's, he does encounter something that's very difficult. And the journey itself that he is taking, it's not, it should be an easy journey. He's made it many times before. But something fails. Something goes wrong. Something fails. Things like that. That does happen. And I'm not telling you that, oh, yeah, we'll just get through it. So, yeah, it is a poorly written blurb. And also just the whole, that being a woman's torso is also so weird to me. And because it doesn't make sense. This wouldn't be the girl. A girl wouldn't, that seems like large armor. You wouldn't expect a young girl in there. And a young girl alone in a dead Norman village. I'm thinking teenager at the most, okay, from that kind of description there. So you'd kind of think that should be Thomas, but why has he got death on his face? And also, why would he have a woman's torso? I mean, it's just the hourglass shape there. It does not make sense. And the proportions off. So yeah, sorry, it just, no. I don't see enough there to interest me, and I am seeing things there that just confuse me. So that further degrades my interest in it. All right. 4422. For Jade City by Fonda Lee. There. And, oh, good. We can get this preview that will also give us a good look. Cover here. Alright, so. Alright. So we've got the... I'm sure there's a specific name for this kind of artwork, but I'm just going to say silhouette, even though I know it's technically not. That is cutting through the green of the cover to show us the Jade City, which has... Those look like they would be... I mean, they're definitely neon signs, but potentially some kind of Oriental writing on there. I'm not sure, which Jade would kind of make sense, because I'm actually not sure where all you find Jade in the world, but it seems like if somebody's talking to you about a Jade City or Jade works of art, you'd expect that is Oriental in origin. But we've got, man and woman walking there toward you based on the bend of the leg on the guy. The woman is carrying a sword, and it does seem to be something akin to a katana. Might not be, but how it is curved like that, suggesting a single-edged blade. And if we also step back out to the larger figure here, we've got a gun in the hand here, and there's also seemingly fire there as well. But it's like at the trigger, not like it's been... Oh, well... Okay, there is a little bit of a light here at the base, at the barrel end of the gun. The muzzle, there we go, of the gun. Almost like it could have been fired, and this is just like the smoke coming up. Except it's bright here, so that it wouldn't quite be that, but it still is special illumination on the gun hand and the gun itself. It's also kind of similar illumination there in the back. But I really don't know much other than just we got a Jade City. Because of the brightness for the lights there, I expect that dark, so secrets in the city kind of thing. And that there is a man and a woman here. There is violence based on the gun and the sword. I got nothing more than that. World Fantasy Award, so potentially fantasy elements. Let's see what we got here. Novel of magic and kung fu. Thought that was 2 words. 4 siblings. We're only seeing 2 in there. Battle rival clans for honor and power in an Asia-inspired fantasy metropolis. Okay. Jade is lifeblood of the island of Kaikon. It's been mined, traded, stolen, and killed for, and for centuries honorable greenbone warriors like the Cowl family have used it to enhance their magical abilities and defend the island from foreign invasion. Huh. I'm sorry, I'm just a little confused here, and continuing to read the blurb may explain it, but it just seems odd that the honorable greenbone warriors like this, I would assume that they're there to protect the Jade, like, that there is the Jade company and they are the hired security for it. That's kind of what I was first envisioning. And then it's like, oh no, they use it to enhance the magical abilities to protect the island from foreign invasion. So it's like, oh, so they're military or paramilitary for the island itself. Okay. Now the war is over. What war? And a new generation of this family rise to control of its bustling capital city. See, this is also part of it, because I was kind of thinking, like, if Jade is so important here, you'd have rival gangs or whatever trying to go after it. This is one of them. War is over. What war? They're vying for control against what? And they would be these other gangs, but you've not set up that there are these other gangs in the blurb, so care about nothing but protecting their own, cornering the Jade market, and defending the districts under their protection. They care about nothing except for all this stuff. That is actually quite a bit. Ancient tradition has little place in this rapidly changing nation. It's like, okay, they care nothing about tradition, only protecting their own, cornering the Jade market, and defending their territory. It's like, that's a better way to... I'm sorry, it's a very badly written blurb already. When a powerful new drug emerges that lets everyone, even foreigners, wield Jade. Okay, see, now I feel like you're retconning what was said earlier. Because, like, Jade, it's the lifeblood of it. It's like, okay, but she's still potentially talking about just the mineral. But then it's like, oh, well, it can be used to enhance your magic. Okay, but then it's like, oh, well, anyone, even foreigners, can with this drug, start to wield Jade. It's like, okay, now what are you talking about? Because we're talking about it enhance their magical abilities. So the drug grants you magic, so then with the magic you can use... I mean, this isn't following consistently. Simmering tensions between them and the rival Ite family erupts into open violence. See, you have set it up instead that it's these two families, or that multiple families on the island had a war last generation. The Call won, but the new generation, they're used to being in power kind of thing, and they're not interested in tradition. Some of that is what would maintain themselves in power, but they don't really think that way. So now this rival family, they see a way that, hey, we can get more soldiers here. They can use the Jade and become more powerful. So we're going to challenge them now and come up. It's like, that would work. Not what this blurb is telling me, and certainly not written in an order for that to make sense either. So I don't know. Maybe that's the right story. Maybe that is in fact the story. Maybe it's not. I don't know. My point is, if that is the story, this flow is very confused. The outcome of this clan war will determine the fate of all Greenbones and of Kekon itself. Oh, okay. So is it that Greenbones are persons who can wield magic and Jade and use the Jade as a way to enhance the magic? Is that the case? I don't know. That's not what was... I mean, it's just an honorable Greenbone warriors. That could just be a class of warrior. That could just be... it could also just be Greenbone warriors who were... I was talking about the idea of a company earlier, that they're the actual hired security, and the Call family is just one member of that. But now, with this... the fate of all Greenbones, it's like, oh, okay, so that makes it sound less like it's just an organization, but people born with this special ability. Okay, again, should have set that up at the start of the blurb when you're introducing the Greenbone term. What is Greenbone? Explain it, because otherwise I start coming up with my own explanation that's apparently wrong. So you're confusing me, you're not intriguing me. Oh, and then we get to praise for Jade City. Let's look at it anyway, because maybe it'll give some clarity. Epic drama reminiscent of the best classic Hong Kong gangster films. See, that's what I was meaning. It's that earlier as well, with the gangster element there, that it could be, the Call family, they're the ones that are in control because they won a war amongst the different gangs. But set in a fantasy metropolis so gritty and well imagined that you'll forget you're reading a book. I doubt that. Sorry, it just... But it still is. I'm now learning more from this person writing about the book, praising the book, than what was actually in the blurb for the book. Or at least I'm getting more clarity there. Beautifully realized setting, great cast of characters, and dramatic action scenes. What a fun, gripping read. I'll be honest, that means absolutely nothing to me. Great cast of characters, dramatic action scenes, a lot of books that can be said of, and what a fun, gripping read. It's like, you're not telling me anything that actually connects with me. It's like, oh, I recommend it. I don't know who you are. I don't care. It's like, the prior thing about an epic drama reminiscent of the best classic Hong Kong gangster films, it's like, you just stop there. I know there's more to, but you stop there. It's like, okay, if I'm familiar with those, I'm interested in those, hey, now I'm interested in the book. Just saying, great cast characters and dramatic action scenes, don't care. Because I can walk over there and probably grab any book off my shelf and be able to say the same thing. If I pull up the Kobo and just find a random book on there, I could probably say the same thing. They could be wildly different books, and I can say the same thing about them. So yeah, it's vacuous. Instantly absorbing tale of blood, honor, family, and magic, spiced with unexpectedly tender character beats. The only part there that attempts being intriguing is just the tale of blood, honor, and family, and magic. So it's like, because you're giving me details here. I'm not sure I care, but still, at least you're giving me some details there. But no, the first praise there by Ken Liu, that's the best of the praises I've written there. I'm still not feeling interested in the story. Sorry, but yeah. Is that right? 178,000 words is 14, 15 hours? I think it'd be longer. Anyway. 55:05. Okay. And so what do we got here? Okay, so a cat, like some kind of mountain lion potentially, but also potentially a huge one. Because, I mean, looking at the shapes here, that looks like a tree, and that this is then on, like, rolling hills or something. Like, this could be massive. And as it is, this arm actually, the proportions on it look completely wrong. But it's just, that could be huge. Like, Cliff with the big red dog. Huge. I am not sure if I'm going to read all that. Oh. Well, okay. Sweeping, not, I mean, this already was not looking all that much like actual blur, but just publicity stuff. Sweeping novel about a single house in the woods of New England, told through the lives of those who inhabit it across the centuries. Time-spanning, genre-blurring work of storytelling magic. What would be genre-blurring about? An immense feeling of two time. Okay, I don't care. The wicked creepiness of Edgar Allan Poe and Mason's bone-deep knowledge of an appreciation of the natural world that's on par with that of Thoreau. Northwards, fires, and also... Okay, yeah, whatever. It's still, it's like... This is not synopsis, okay? This is publicity. Even this. So let's look at this now. When two young lovers abscond from a Puritan colony, little do they know that their humble cabin in the woods will become the home of an extraordinary succession of human and non-human characters alike. Why would they? I mean, especially because of what was said earlier about this going over centuries. It's like, oh yeah, we had no idea that after we died that somebody else moved in and is going to be interested. So we should have known somebody else was going to move in. Alright, an English soldier, and also the whole, and non-human characters alike. There's a big-ass cat on the cover, so it's like, when you say non-human, it's like, that could literally just be wildlife moves in. I mean, it's not suggesting anything more than that. An English soldier, destined for glory, abandons the battlefield of the New World to devote himself to growing apples. Okay. Pair of spinster twins navigate war and famine, envy and desire. Crime reporter unearths an ancient mass grave, only to discover that the Earth refuses to give up... No. Only to discover that the Earth refuses to give up its secrets, her secrets, because typically the Earth is feminine. Not their secrets, because there is no plural there. Lovelorn painter, a sinister conman, a stalking panther. That could be a thing. A lusty beetle. What do I care about a beetle? As the inhabitants confront the wonder and mystery around them, they begin to realize that the dark, raucous, beautiful past is very much alive. I don't care. I mean, is that kind of fiction just a woman thing? I don't have anything against it, but it's just this idea that, hey, let's talk about a house and how, or a building, because in the previous video there was that one that was the hospital. Well, where it's like, oh yes, these events that are over centuries, even though it's like, yes, with two female protagonists. By the way, one of them is a man, so it's not two female protagonists. And it's centuries apart, such that there's no way they will ever connect. And you're not telling me anything in the blurb, just there's a connection. Then here it's like, okay, in theory, it's from one resident to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. But what do I care? What connects any of them? You're not giving anything to me here. It seems like it could just be an anthology of stories, but it's always the same house. I could watch The Twilight Zone, because those are technically always taking place in the Twilight Zone. It's the same kind of thing, except with the Twilight Zone, I at least expect it to be kind of weird and interesting. It's like it's exploring something interesting. Huh? Spinster sisters. Spinster twins. I don't know anything about their sexes, so it's like, okay. Do I care? No. But as I said, maybe it's a woman thing. Maybe women like this kind of story. It doesn't connect with me. Magisterial and highly inventive novel. Okay, so now we're just back to publicity stuff, and it's like, is it really that highly inventive? I mean, because nothing said thus far would make me think that. It seems like it's just an anthology based on it being a single book, as a single house. I mean, my Catherine verse, like, I mentioned a letter from Catherine earlier. It's like I had plans for multiple stories in that. There would technically be an anthology like this, except they'd be multiple full books, not one single thing. They're basically a collection of short stories. No, it's a larger thing, and it's like, you could say that maybe not magisterial, but at least, highly inventive. I mean, I do kind of invent technologies in there, but, highly inventive science fiction book series. You could say that and had just as much meaning as this. So no, I don't care. I'm sorry, but I don't. Just none of it. There's nothing here that connects with me. But I don't remember if I said it. I doubt I said it clearly. This might not be meant to connect to me, to someone like me, and that's fine. I must acknowledge that. There was nothing here to this blurb to make me think ill of the story, to make me think ill of the book at all. Okay? It's just nothing there connects with me. But Jade City, the one we just looked at prior, that actually does worry me a little bit, because how poorly constructed that blurb was, I don't know. I don't have a reason to trust that story. But it is technically a story that some elements that I might find interesting. It's just the blurb was so poorly written, I'm not connected to it. Between Two Fires, same kind of thing. Project Hail Mary, kind of, but not at all to the same degree. Not at all to the same degree. Because it was not a well-written blurb, but it wasn't a bad blurb. It was poorly written. It wasn't badly written. It was poorly written. So it's like, maybe. Mistborn, the blurb just failed. I had nothing on that. And 12 months, that, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt that maybe if I knew the prior Dresden file stories, that it would work. That it would make more sense. But no. So this is... Yeah, the blurb is legitimately the best of them. It's for a story I'm not interested in. Alright, so now let's see. What does Amazon push? Oh, is that not? Okay. Here? I thought I could. Just... Oh no, it's Amazon books like that. Okay. I'm just... I don't know what here I'd be interested to examine a little more. Why the... You know what? Sure. The blurb might be funny. Yeah, we can look at that a little bit as well. Okay, you know what? I will also pull that one up as well. So, what do we got here? 104. 430. Okay. Yeah, My Husband's Wife novel. But yeah, I am looking forward to this this blurb. This could be funny. Best on bad psychological masterpiece. Anyway, Eden Fox, an artist on the brink of a big break, sets off for a run before her first exhibition. When she returns to the home she recently moved into, Spyglass, an enchanting old house in Hope Falls. The house has a name. Nothing is as it should be. Key doesn't fit. A woman eerily similar to her answers the door, and her husband insists that the stranger is his wife. Okay. Let me just say, based on that, it's like, okay, I see potential here. This is actually kind of intriguing. As I keep reading that, I might lose that, but that's actually kind of intriguing. The idea of you coming home, and it's a Twilight Zone story, that you come home and find that, oh, there's somebody a lot like me that is apparently my husband's wife in the house now. This is my house, but it's not my house. But there's potential there. My husband's wife is a lousy title for that, though. Because, I mean, that legitimately seeing that, it's like, what kind of romance nonsense is this? But this, hey, Twilight Zone. Okay, maybe I'm interested in this. 6 months earlier, a reclusive Londoner called Bertie, reeling from life-changing diagnosis, inherits Spyglass. This unexpected gift from a long-lost grandmother brings her to the pretty seaside village of Hope Falls, but then Bertie stumbles upon shadowy London clinic that claims to be able to predict a person's date of death, including her own. Secret starts to... See, now I'm gone. I've lost any interest. I probably wasn't going to read it anyway, to be honest, because it does still seem like this is probably targeting women more than men, and I got other things to read first. But it's like, oh, okay, and 6 months earlier, it belonged to somebody else entirely. How does this connect? There's nothing suggesting. Is anything more in here? It doesn't look like it. Because, I mean, it's like, okay, so this Eden Fox moved in after Bertie died? Okay, why do I care? Why don't you start with it? Or why don't you present it differently? Where it's, like, the key the key to the mystery may come from its late owner who died young months before you moved in, or something like that. It's like you do something like that. So it's like it's continuing to build off of this first paragraph here. We continue to build it, like, oh, maybe this is where the solution is. Instead, it's just a, oh, and here's a completely separate story. We're not telling you how it connects at all, aside from being the same house. But it was months earlier, and it's like, yeah, good luck, have fun, figure it out for yourself. Nope. Just realized I forgot to look at this closer. Oh, that's actually kind of neat. And you know what? This is not a good way to do it. This, I didn't notice this, but you can see, the profile of a woman's face, in how the notches are for the key. This, however, is also a woman's face. And what would be neat is if they had somehow come up with some reason for this to continue around, like just a shadow, to be a full silhouette, so you see similarities between them. So it's like the two different women here, the wife and the husband's wife. Especially because there's also the element of one is within the key, so one is inside, the other is outside. So it would help with you would have that juxtaposition there. But that's not what we get. So yeah, I definitely don't feel that this cover is necessarily doing a good job. I like the idea. I just think they should have gone a step further with it. And this blurb, nope. I mean, it's like I said, this sounds interesting. This sounds like this could be Twilight Zone. Yeah, some romance elements there, which maybe men aren't interested in, but you know what? Twilight Zone, men like Twilight Zone, so this works. But then once you get this here, and it's like, huh? Why does this matter? You're not telling me why this matters. You're confusing me now. You're breaking my interest. Don't do that. So, fair cover. Ultimately, a poor, interest-breaking blurb. So, there. All right, what's next? 109, 53, I think that said. Yep. 9, 53, 4. Stolen in death. In death 62. What does that even mean? I was like, presumably that would be the series. Like, but 62nd in the series? That doesn't seem right. No, it is. Wow. Okay, 62 of 63. Let's take a closer look at this. Because one thing, when I was seeing it smaller, I did not like the image, in part because when it's smaller, the in within the jewel there is actually kind of hard to read. Like the contrast isn't that strong, especially with it being so small of text. But it is also, as I do look at this more closely, this is, yeah, it's more woman-coded. Just the amount of detail here that's really unnecessary. How have I described it before? I can't remember. But I mean, it's like the chain also isn't really helping much with that. But if this was simpler, the pendant here, if it was simpler, not as complex with all the details there, because like, you know, just to let me see the thing and figure it out and just go from there. It's like, okay, but this is like, oh, look at all this fine detail there that I'm trying to pull, that you're trying to pull my eye to, as opposed to, no, I know where to look, and then I look out from that to take it all in. So yeah, it's, so I've let me try to explain that better, because I've tried to explain this in prior videos, that as a man, I find that my gaze, when it comes to something like cover art, is it tries to go to the first, most important, most significant point. You know, what draws my attention directly to it, my gaze goes there, and then it works its way out. So that would be like, it's like my gaze goes directly to what seems the most significant threat, and then it builds out from there to understand the environment, the situation, in order to properly respond to the threat. This, however, is more distracting, where it's just, oh, look at all this detail here. It doesn't matter. None of that detail adds to this. It could be a single large jewel, and that's it. And then it would be a stolen in death. Okay, it's a jewel in a pendant on a necklace that was stolen in death. Okay, I got that. But this is like, no, look at all this here. Isn't this pretty? It's like, I don't care. I already assessed that that's what that is, and then I'm looking out, and I look at it and I don't see much more that really intrigues me at all. Although I will also say that is either a very long chain or multiple chain. You know what, let's also look at this. Mild injury to the face, knees, hit from behind, fell forward, knees hit, face hit. I don't like how that's written. I get it's in... Okay, I get it's in quotes, so it doesn't have to be perfect grammar, but still. That's accurate, a blow to the back of the head with a heavy object. In your prelim notes last night, I don't write it that way. Last night you indicated a rock. Didn't see your updated report before I left this morning. I'm sorry, in your prelim notes, either say preliminary notes or just say in your prelim last night. Drop the notes. I don't know. It's like you're one and a half-assing it. Either half-ass it or full-ass it, I guess. I mean, that's a horrible way to put it. But it's just, it feels like it's 1.5. Either make it 1 or make it 2. Okay? Don't 1.5. Yeah, sorry I didn't write up until shortly before I left. Didn't see your updated report before I left this morning. Okay. Understandable, given his TOD. So time of death. And I'm just, should you technically put in the dots there? I don't know. Anyway, I imagine you didn't get home until near to 4 this morning. That's about right. Big rock. She held her hands apart, sort of club-shaped. Rourke ID'd it as an amethyst. Amethyst, yeah, big purple rock. They actually come that big. Anyway, Eve pulled out her link. That is something that, well, I don't like that. I'll explain why. Her link brought up the crime scene photo. Morse studied the image. That's a beautiful stone. A pity to use it for taking a life. Is Morris a woman as well? I'm sorry, a pity to use it for taking a life. That's not how a man talks, typically. I mean, a pity to use it for taking a life. It just, a pity and then just so much more, so many more words there. I just feel like drop the words, get more to the point. A pity it was used this way. So it's still kind of just have it trail off that way. But anyhow, going back to the whole, Eve pulled out her link with the apostrophe there, so you're shortening it. I'm trying to remember where it was. If that was when I was starting with the news editing, or if it was actually back even in high school. I know in high school I learned, I was taught the whole the rule for when you write out a number or you use the digits, that's 10, 1 to 10, technically 0 I guess as well, should be written out the word. At 11 is when you start using digits, however, never start a sentence with digits. So you should always write it out in that case. But it may have been there, it may have been, instead when I started with news editor, don't use abbreviations when in normal text. So when not having speech. So the shortening of link, that which maybe that's comlink, I don't know. To me, I see that as wrong, because that's what I was taught. And indeed, if you look through my books, I never use an abbreviation outside of speech, because to me, it's not you're not supposed to use them there. They are supposed to be written out. And it's something that actually, it gets annoying because I see a lot of like news items and such written that way. And it's like, and press releases, it's like, it's not quite right. And I just wonder if that's a style thing, that it's just not my style, but it is allowed in some styles, or if it could just be a people don't care. That, well, yeah. There are formal styles, like Chicago style, AP style. I know some of that's specifically talking about news, but it's still, those do exist. And when you are with a company, like a publisher, it might be a, no, you need to follow this style. Doesn't matter what yours is, you follow ours, because we're the publisher. And it might be a, no, you do this. Or at least, like, going back with press releases, when you look for work for certain PR companies, it's like, no, this is our style, you follow it. But I can believe that there are a lot of people today that they are losing that sense of it, because some people just don't care, and and in some cases, they're the ones that are running the companies. That they had an idea, so they started a company, but they don't know the formalities to some of it, so they don't care. It's just whatever works. And it's also possible that social media has hurt that as well, because so often you want to get to things quicker. It's like, it's got to be like that all the time. So you want to shorten it, not just because there's a constraint on length, but just to try to make it fewer words, make it seem more concise. Not necessarily that, but it's like to try to get them interest. But anyway. All right. Violent death and a vault of stolen treasures has Eve Dallas struggling to solve crimes old and new in the next thriller in the series. And it's just violent death and vault of stolen treasures. These often go together. I'm sorry, but it's just, well, I guess In Death is the name of the series, so Stolen in... It seems like Stolen in Death is kind of a silly name, but it is also... Okay, it's the name of the series, Stolen, so it's like you're telling people, hey, it's the In Death series, and there's theft involved. Though you'd think with 61 prior stories, theft would have been involved in others as well. Anyhow, blow to the head with a block of amethyst has left this multi-billionaire dead, while nearby a vault had stored jars sits filled with priceless paintings, jewelry, and other treasures. Scrappy thief recognizes at least 2 stolen pieces among the hoard. So there's a burglar car on the act, but only one item seems to be missing. It's like, okay, so you're taking too long to get there. Because it's like a violent death and a vault of stolen treasures. I was kind of reading that as though person killed, treasure stolen. So, like, vault, had treasure is now stolen. Oh, no. Eventually we get to that, oh, no, what's in the vault, they were stolen, and this guy has them. It's like, okay, could have clarified that a little earlier. But that only one thing in particular was stolen. I would argue, too, because amethyst, I'm pretty sure, is a gemstone. One that large. I mean, it was taken to kill. Left, yes. But I think that technically still counts as theft. At least because it was, removed from where it was supposed to be. I'm actually not sure on that one. Anyhow. Then it's revealed that the vault had actually belonged to the victim's late father. No one in the household knew it was there until a recent remodeling project exposed it. Check the family name and business. They explain to Eve they'd been looking for a way to return the ill-gotten gains anonymously and avoid the police. Now the police are all over the elegant house and have a bigger, bloodier mystery to solve. This is stupid. Because in a situation like that, yes, there would be ways to avoid the police, but it would be you contact a local museum or something. And there are also organizations that do exist to try to return art in something like this. Some of them would be largely connected to the Holocaust because of how much artwork and such Nazis stole and kept, that there, as sometimes vaults and such are being opened or descendants of the Nazis are finding this stuff, you can then try to return it to the rightful owner. So there are organizations that will figure out, okay, who would be the descendants of the rightful owners, how can we get it, verify all this, get it to them, but done anonymously, because it's about returning the goods. It's not about the descendants of the Nazis being punished. So it's like, it just... Who is that person involved? You can talk about that, it's like, oh, there's a museum curator that has been helping them with this, as opposed to, like, this multi-billionaire family doesn't know how to contact people to get this done for them. They're trying to do it themselves, like idiots. Anyway, by all accounts, Nathan Barrister was a good man, a generous employer, devoted husband, father. As for his father, he clearly had secrets. Maybe, maybe not. Now it's up to Eve and her team to find out if those secrets got Nathan killed, and if it was a crime of passion or revenge. I mean, those overlap. It doesn't have to be or. How would you hide the vault? I'm sorry. I don't know. It feels a little... It's not... It doesn't contain buzzwords, but I just feel like this is hitting beats. And that kind of helps reduce my interest in it. For it to feel like, oh, you're just hitting beats. But I don't know. I mean, it also does sound a little bit like a generic story. Yeah, I don't really know. I'm gonna quickly do this. I'm just... Okay. Mainly I just wanted to see on this 2004. Okay. Wow, that's still like good number each year. But I just want to see how old this series is. All right. So now for the last one, which I'm actually only looking at because I'm pretty sure that this is stuff I've already looked at, but it is a different different cover art. Okay, well, not completely, because last time it was Housemaid's Secret, but it is the same author. Okay, so let me just see if I do that. Yeah, this is what I'd seen before. So I don't really need to look through the blurb, but, well, hang on. Let me do this. Just, I want to compare these. So one of the criticisms criticisms that I have is I actually know what a keyhole looks like, and that's not what a keyhole looks like. I know the shape is there, but you have a larger metal plate around it. It's not just metal tracing out the shape. That's not how it works. So this, though, we do have just the shape there, but we've got these two women on either side, and it seems like there's a stairwell there. So it's like, this is actually a better cover image. I still don't necessarily like it because I don't know, it seems a bit, it's pushing very hard on the, hey, it's a motion picture, these are the actresses, and I don't necessarily, I've talked about that before, I don't necessarily like, well, I don't know, maybe this isn't from the film production itself. Maybe it is an artist rendition there, but it still is I feel it's a book. Use the book cover art. Don't use the movie. But I mean, it's still this, at least for the shape there. That makes more sense than this. This is just, that's not what a keyhole looks. Not what a keyhole looks like. And I guess just looking a little bit more, we see this woman. That technically, is that more an engagement ring than a wedding ring? But anyway, so you can see that there. They both have this, blue on the inside of their faces, yellow, orange on the outside, blonde, brunette. Very different clothing, especially with how she seems to have a kind of sweater on there, like, like she's the housemaid. She's the one that's wearing more so just comfortable clothes because she's working. This seems more fancy. So, like, the employer, housemaid. I do find a little interesting that the woman on the right here, because of the placement of her arm, which, yes, allows left hand and the ring to be shown, is technically also obscuring her breasts, while the other is, nope, they're right there. Billy can't avoid seeing them. So it is just interesting that how they have the different ways of showing these two. Also, how, I mean, this face is a little, it has a bit more energy to it, so it's a little bit more attractive, even more for the eye to go to, because as I said, there's a bit more energy there. This looks like I'm dull, I'm going to bore you, and I'm just here. So yeah, there's not as much there. Sort of I'm tired as well. Like, I've been working and all that, so yeah. But I just want to, so Nina Winchester says, as I shake her elegant manicured hand, so in theory she's the woman on the right. Working, here's my last chance. Yeah, so it's like, I'd assume she's on the right is the wife. I'm just looking at the blurb to try to remember exactly what all I'd seen. It would also because of the idea that the wife is doing things to make her life difficult, so some energy there, like, plotting, planning to do whatever, and then, I'm tired, but I have to take care of this anyway. So, yeah. Actually, no, have that up. So I still don't necessarily care a lot for this cover, because it's books should have book cover art, not movie cover art. I feel like this is into more so movie cover art. But I absolutely, and in theory, you could do the same kind of image, but have it be less photographic, less, I mean, technically, those may count more as portraits than photograph, but still, it's just, make it a little bit more stylized to be for, like, book cover art. But I will say that it still is how this looks, and with the way you have the keyhole there, I like that better functionally, structurally, than this. This just, that's not what a keyhole looks like, and I can't help but see that, and it just annoys me, because it also makes it look cheap. It really does. Like, hey, I'm just going to take, wood grain, what looks like wood painted blue, and we just change that every book cover, because there was also one I saw that was red, and we'll just, basic keyhole image here, don't worry, cut out there with an eye behind it, have a shadow there, make sure it looks kind of like metal, but it also knows how we've got this white border there, so it looks cheap and wrong, but it looks cheap. at least this does look more involved. It looks like whoever made this image actually cared. As said, I think it's too movie coverish, but it still is. It does look better. So. All right. So that was book covers video. Cover impressions video for. Actually, turn that off. For this month. I'm just. Only Northwoods of all of them actually kind of sort of intrigues me. It kind of. Only Northwoods to actually like how the blurb was and the cover art was, but as I said, it doesn't connect with me. That's not a story for me. My Husband's Wife, maybe that first half there, because it's sounding Twilight Zone-ish. It's like, oh, maybe, but then I kept reading and it's like, oh, no, I had nothing. You broke my interest. So, yeah. I wish it wasn't the case, but it was. All right. See you next time. Hopefully I will start up the assigned reading videos again before March. But I do want to try to keep these going. Because they are fun to do. I do enjoy doing this. It gives me an excuse to look at new book releases. And it is also just kind of fun. See you next time.